All right, I want to touch on the small block forward cam challenge just a little bit. Just talk about some of the results and some of the numbers and what I think about the whole deal. And then probably in a different video, we're going to talk about the small block Chevy challenge because it's coming up, and we got, I don't know, a few cams in that challenge too. So stay tuned and we'll get into it. All right, so we had a total of, I think, four. Yeah, we had a total of four cams in the small block forward cam challenge. Two of which I had input in the cam design. The other two, the customer said I want this, and we did it. Matter of fact, uh, just uh, just a attaboy. Karsten Kafer, he's overseas. We done his cam, and he actually designed his own lobes. And he's not. I mean, obviously he's not a moron by no means, but he's not a lobe designer. I was impressed that he was able to do it. The lobes were were really fast. We went back and forth a little bit. We helped him, try to get them in range, but they were 100% his specs. We did exactly what he wanted to do. We just helped him get a lobe that was manufacturable. So I'm just, and he placed, and I mean, he was down the line, but he still done pretty good, in my opinion, to be able to design his own lobes. And we put it on the cam, and it run and worked, and so thumbs up for that. I was impressed, but but we didn't have any input in his cam, and there was another one for another fella that was really big, and we didn't have any input in it, but we did one that, so we ended up the cams we had input in finished in the top 10. So we had one cam that finished fourth, and then one cam that finished, dang it, seventh, maybe. God, I should have that in front of me. I apologize. Seventh or eighth. Well, for sure, it was in the top 10. So I just want to go over the numbers. I'll try to put some stuff on the screen here, but I just want to. Some of this stuff is amazing to me. How close this stuff ends up being, and how obviously people think very similar that are in the know. I'm not in the know, but people that are in the know think very similar. So I'm not going to give you no exact specs because I feel like you need to, you know, Eric made it where you need to buy this information if you want it. So I'm not just going to give it out. I'm going to tell you some power numbers, averages, because that's all that matters to me. I don't give a crap about peak numbers; they're absolutely useless. But average numbers over the RPM window is what wins races, and that's all we care about. So, well, that ain't all we care about. We care about average numbers over the RPM window and the valve train living. That's critical, right? So, having said that, the camshaft that won, and again, I'll try to put this stuff on the screen. The camshaft that won the challenge and the camshaft that we done that finished fourth place. The difference in average horsepower and torque was the average horsepower difference was 3 horsepower, and the average torque difference was 1.7 foot pounds. I mean, I just want you I just want to stress how close these things are. I mean, the opening and closing events at 50 on the first place cam and the fourth place cam are literally within a degree or two. The major difference between the number one cam and the number four cam, because essentially they're the same cam, essentially, other than the number one cam has a much lower intensity number, right? So it's a way faster load. I think it's like, again, I'm not going to give away any of this information, but the difference between the cam I did and the winning cam is like 6 degrees at 20. So that's big. And to me, again, I'm just a 8th grade redneck, just making this stuff up as I go. But to me, I would rather have, because again, at the racetrack, nobody's going to know the difference. I mean, it's just, you're just not going to know the difference. In 90% of classes and cars. Now, if you're at the very upper echelon of your field, 3 horsepower, if you got 650 horsepower, 3 horsepower, you might know it, but the general population would absolutely never know what happened. So I would rather have a super gentle lobe and low spring pressure and not have to worry about my valve train than a really fast lobe. And again, fast lobes can live and be happy and all of that stuff 100%, 100%. But as a rule of thumb, the faster that lobe is, the more spring pressure it's going to take to control it, and the more rigid the valve train's got to be to make it work. Just again, this is rule of thumbs. This is not every instance, and I'm not. I'm like the guy that won, did a great job. I'm glad he won. He deserved it. There's no shady nothing there. I'm just saying that, and keep in mind that I mean, really, again, this is similar to the LS Challenge. I mean, the top 5 or 6 or 10. I mean, I think the LS Challenge was maybe even a little tighter once you got past fifth place or something. It was out of the difference in power from first to fifth is well outside the accuracy of the dyno. So ultimately, I mean, the top 10, they're so close, it's a wash ultimately, because the tolerance for the dyno is not even that close. I mean, Superflow says 2% on a brand new dyno. So, I mean, you do that math. I mean, at 650 horsepower, what's 2% of that, right? So we just way beyond that. But again, I am tickled to death that 75-year-old grinders and and super gentle lows finished fourth. I'm tickled to death, and the customer was tickled to death. Matter of fact, that cam is gonna be on the website for sale. So if you've got a small block Ford that you want a really good camshaft for, that is remotely close to the package that Eric put together, that cam will be on the website probably sometime this coming week, I would imagine. The 7th place cam may also be on the website for sale. I need to talk to the customer about that. I don't know if he wants to sell it or he don't, but I'll find out about that. But for sure, the 4th place cam is a really good cam. We didn't push the lift limits. I think the lift limits were like 480 or 490 or something at the lobe, and we were way under that. And a lot of other people were really close to that upper end of the tolerance. But I just find just what little bit of testing I've done. I mean, lift matters, but the difference between 450 and 480 is trivial. I mean, it's the dyno can't read it. It just doesn't matter. So we don't tend to really stress out much about lift in the grand scheme of things. So anyway, but I just wanted to kind of go over some of that because I thought it was real interesting again. And if you want to see all that information, you can. I don't know the fee. You can contact Eric about that, but I know it's available. You can get that data and see all of the specs and see all the graphs and all of that stuff. But again, that top 5 or 6, man, they are tight. I mean, there was a few that had some really good peak numbers, but in the grand scheme of things, the averages matter, and throughout the averages, again, they were just super duper close. So that's my thoughts on that. But again, I don't know if we're gonna wait till after or before, but we may do a little preliminary on the small block Chevy challenge once all the cams are in. I think the date's passed. I think, or maybe not. No, I think they got to the end of this month. So once the date's passed and nobody can change any specs, we may talk about it some, because I think it's going to be real interesting. It's going to be a little different. The way the test is done, it's going to be different. It's going to be at a different facility, and I already know that specs are all over the place. I've got some really good ideas how it's going to go, but it may not go that way, because some of this stuff is always a surprise. I had the small block challenge, the Ford challenge pegged pretty good. I felt like it was going to be like this. I knew that the big stuff was going to fall on its face, because, a lot of times, people have the urge to go big, especially when you hear, 7,000, 7,500 RPM, people just automatically get big with the cam. And it just, this proves again that it just don't take a big cam. If you got enough cylinder head, I mean, it's supply and demand. If the cylinder head is big enough to feed the inches, it just doesn't take nearly as much camshaft as you think it does. And that's another reason why, I talked about it in the phone video, that people think, oh, that cam's too small. And I'm like, it's not too small. I mean, if you had a 180cc head, it's too small. But if you got a, 300, a 340 CFM head, it's not too small. It's just right. So, that's just another, this test just proves what we already knew, that, the more heads you have, the less cam you need. And that's just how it is. And so to do the same job, right? If you want to turn it 12 grand, then obviously you're going to need some more cam. But for the same 7,000 RPM, bunch of CFM versus little CFM, the big CFM is going to take much less camshaft to do that same job. And if you have to, if you don't have enough, we just went through this with, we're probably going to do a cam for just Mopar Joe. He's doing 540, and the cylinder head to me is way too small, because there's just not a lot of offerings for these engines. It's the same way with like Buicks and Pontiacs and Oldsmobiles. There's just not really good cylinder heads, right? The good stuff is 30%, 40% down from a big block Chevrolet with the same inches, right? So it's going to be hard to make the kind of power a big block Chevrolet will make with 40% less cylinder head. So the only option is to put 40% more camshaft in it. And then it's really like a Band-Aid. You putting a bunch of cam in to try to make up for lack of cylinder head, but then the engine suffers everywhere else because now the camshaft's just too big. Right. I mean, when the cam gets big, there's just a lot of stuff going on that is not conducive to lower end performance, and that's just how it is. So I always would rather have more head and less cam than the other way around. right? If we got too much head, if that even is a thing, if we got too much head, we can always put a smaller cam in. But if we ain't got enough head, putting a bigger cam in just doesn't work out the same way. That math just don't math. So anyway, hopefully, that was interesting. But I thought it was a good test, and it turned out really, really similar to how I thought it was going to turn out. Once I seen all the specs, I was like, yeah, we right there where we need to be. So, and again, that top, that top 4 or 5 cams, I mean, they were all within just a few degrees of one another. I mean, they were really close. But as the list went down, and as the placement went down, the cams got bigger and bigger and bigger, and they finished lower and lower and lower. So keep in mind, and even a lot of them with really big cams made less. They obviously made way less average and torque and horsepower, but they also even made less peak horsepower and torque. So, the idea that you can just give it some more cam and move the RPM range up, this test again just debunks it, because I'm pretty sure that the camshaft that won was like 20 something degrees smaller than the cam that was the biggest, and the biggest one was still 9 horsepower down on peak. So again, you can't fix it. You can't fix not enough cylinder head with a bunch of cam, or just more RPM will get you a bigger number with a bigger cam. It just don't always pan out that way. So anyway, that's just some more camshaft information. And like I say, we're going to do some stuff on the small block challenge. I'm sure we'll have a couple of videos on it, because I think that it's not going to turn out like people think it's going to turn out. I'm 99% sure that it's going to be 180 degrees. It's going to go 180 degrees from how everybody thinks it's going to go. I'm pretty sure, but I might go to school. I might go to school, but I'm interested to see, because this is but I ain't going to give all that away. I'm going to stop right there before I tell too much. So, but we'll talk about that when we get there. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much.